Uh, I'm here in Trinbago's office, Victoria.
14 to 17 Park Street, in Victoria Park Suites, level 1, here in Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Okay, I'm here with Mr. Richard Forteau. Richard Forteau is the Secretary of Trinbago. Richard, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Trinbago and what do you do here?
Well, first, to talk about Pan Trinbago is the body, the representative body for all steel bands in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, with the act of incorporation, which I would actually go straight into. Pan Trinbago was made a body corporate by Act of Parliament, Act 5 of 1986. And with the act came the responsibility of the organization to actually work to becoming the world governing body for steel band. And this is why you would probably hear me talk sometime later of an international conference and panorama which will be held in, in Trinidad next year, the year 2014, right? As we work towards getting the world to come together, right? Not just only for, let's say, for panorama exercise, but also to sit and start to have some level of discussion on where we take the movement. Because you will see it on our letterheads, Pan Trinbago, the world governing body for steel bands. One will ask somebody from France or somebody from Germany, what is that? Right? The world governing body, what are they doing for us? What are they doing for us in Canada? What are they doing as a citizen of any state in the United States of America? What is Pan Trinbago really doing for me, as the world governing body, right? But coming out of the Mecca and being the Mecca, not coming out, being the Mecca, you would understand then that there are certain things that we have to put in place, right? And this is why we are taking it step by step. And this is why we're heading into the whole question of the international conference, which is what we are actually pushing. But we don't want to bring the world here and then not have an exercise that after the conference that they can all come down and all celebrate. So this is why we are actually going to end with the international panorama, which will take place in the month of August 2014. But coming back to the organization, Pan Trinbago, you would know that the Steelman movement, we pride ourselves to be one of the oldest organizations in the Caribbean. Pan Trinbago started in 1949 as the Steelman Association of Trinidad and Tobago. We continued as a Steelman Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and when Trinidad and Tobago gained independence in 1962, thereafter there was a name change. The National Association of Trinidad and Tobago Steelman's Men, commonly put on the acronym NATS, the National Association of Trinidad and Tobago Steelman's Men. A little later, when Trinidad became a republic in the year 1976, thereafter, right, talks started to take place, because somehow in Trinidad and Tobago you find if even though a Trinidadian or if even though someone goes to the Olympics or so and they would win a medal, the next thing you might hear them saying that that person is from Trinidad. Right away we actually forgot that it's a twin island republic. So we pride ourselves again, I must say, to be one of the first organizations to actually put the two parts of the name, Trin and Bago, together.
That's
Right?
interesting.
So this is why we have Pan Trinbago. Trin is from Trinidad and Bago is from Tobago. So this is how we have Pan Trinbago today. So when we say that, then we actually is an all-inclusive. Right away, we're talking about something that comes out of Trinidad and Tobago, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so the question that I'm asking in general, right? And you could choose to answer freely with this, and I'll just put a little background on it. It's that my topic for my thesis would be Pan in the diaspora, an overview of the steel pan development in Canada's two major cities, Montreal and Toronto. Okay, and the reason I'm in Trinidad now is because this is where it all began. A lot of people have written a lot of stuff about Trinidad already and the history and so on. So my angle on it would be to ask a simple question like, how has steel pan development abroad impacted or is impacting the steel pan development here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, I will say it has, is, and continues to impact greatly on. If we trace and go back into the history of the steel band, and we just want to look at the fact that you know that there is some writing somewhere where they say that a prophet has no honor in his country or the country of his origin and that kind of stuff, right? Now, when one pays attention to the steel pan as a phenomena, you would realize that we had some problems here in this country with actual people who were actually involved, the artisans who were actually involved with the pan. We had some problem in actually gaining acceptance of the thing, right? Now today it's all good when you hear people tell you of the wonderful gift that Trinidad and Tobago has given the world. But when we throw our minds back in time, we recall that it wasn't easy in the early day. Those young pioneers who would have actually taken the steel pan and have it where it's at, right? To know they could sit back and feel good about the work that they would have done. But in the early day, when they were actually playing the pan, it was tears, blood, sweat, tears, prison in some cases, right? We have seen where the thing was taboo. As a matter of fact, even while we are speaking, it's still on the book as a noisy instrument. So we still have to work to ensure that it's taken off the books as a legal noisemaker.
So this in itself then, following what you're saying then, because now there's such a great demand and exposure abroad, you think now this is having a positive effect in Trinidad
This
because
is
of
where,
the same
yes,
taboo
yes,
as you mentioned?
this is why. So that is why my answer it was, has, is, and continues to be. All right, because when TASPO would have left here, remember, even to raise funds for TASPO to go to the Festival of Britain,
What year?
that was in 1951.
Okay.
Right? 50, 51. They went to the Festival of Britain in 51, but you would have known that they would have had to start raising funds from a year or two before that, right? And it would have taken, at that time, £25,000 to take the guys outside. And even at that time, the officialdom found that that £25,000 was too much money to spend to get a group of people who were actually going to sell Trinidad and Tobago abroad. They said they could not have taken taxpayers' money to send a group abroad. So what actually occurred then is that we still now looking at the impact of Trinbagonians abroad and even people from the Caribbean. People who were domiciled in Britain and so, when they heard of the problems that were being encountered by the folks here to raise the necessary funds, they put themselves in a gear and they decided that they will do the necessary, have cake sales, have barbecues, and have a number of fundraisers on the outside so as to assist the exercise.
Okay, so it was a joint
It was
effort.
a joint, and
Okay,
this is
that's
why
interesting. I had no idea
people
about that.
from Trinidad, people from the Caribbean, all domiciled in Britain, they got together on a weekend and they decided to do all kind of things. Garage sales and a number of things then. They
Interesting.
did that to ensure that they too felt that we were onto a good thing. But like I said, we at home, we had our problems, you know, the thing, the same people who now tell you of how beautiful and how wonderful the song of the instrument, these are the people who would have called the Black Maria, called the police and say, look the guys, and then just go down the corner. A bunch of hoodlums, a bunch of all kind of things. And if we throw our minds back in time, remember the song as sung by the Mighty Sparrow. If your sister talk to a steel band man, your family want to break she hand, put she out. Lick out every teeth in she mouth, she outcast. So we have the stories. We have where you could go and look and see the documentation of our storytellers who would have told us the things that would have happened. So when Tasco went to Britain, and a number of the guys, they came back, but they went back to England, right? And so we saw then the sojourn of taking the pan out from Trinidad and Tobago. So some of the guys who weren't getting any jobs and so here, and they were offered to come and teach in schools and a number of places in London and so on, England, they went back out, right? We have, some of them are still there. We have Sterling Betancourt, who is today at MBE, right? We have quite a bit of the guys. Anthony Williams, he went back, he spent a little while, but he actually came back because he wanted, all on his mind was Pan Am North Stars as a band, right? And even that, when you look at these fellas, this is another discussion. But when we look at why some of these tuners and things are where they are today financially, it's because of the love that they had for their band. Tony Williams could have thrown pan for so many other steel bands in Trinidad and Tobago, but he was just on Tony Williams, on Pan Am North Stars. Anybody who come, oh, so you want to get the Pan Am song, and they would garden their song.
Right.
I don't know, long time you could have just listened to a band strike up and you know, well, which band was that? Because of the tonal quality and all that. It's not so now. All the band song, you have to differentiate from the arrangement.
Right.
And the arranger, you know, the arranger will have a certain color, a certain phrase that he will use and thing, and when you hear it, say, well, this song like a so and so.
Right.
But getting back, right, and it's because of all of that, and it's because of the way the Caribbean, right, and so have grasped the steel pan, right? Outside there, what's happening? Well, let's talk radio. We have so many radio stations, over 30-something radio stations here in Trinidad. How many of them play? Yes, 30. Over 30-something. How many of them play pan? We had Radio Trinidad. Well, our next man, a man buy that and he make it an urban station. Right now, it's one radio station or two radio stations at most. You understand? That you could get some pan. You get pan and whack 24/7, one or two play some pan. You understand? And then some of them may have a little tour program once for the week, right? But other than that, we are pushing everything other than ours down our people's throat.
That has been a problem with Trinidad, and you know why I'm saying that. You know we take a look at our next door neighbor of Jamaica, and how they push reggae and even before that ska and all their music, their culture, they put that out before.
But look at even Canada, where they have decided that, hey, if you all have to play, we want 51%, you all must play 50%. And look at how many acts they have unearthed since they decided to go that route.
Yeah.
But we have some people here in Canada, democracy just like Trinidad and Tobago, but you have some people in Trinidad tell you, because we are democracy, we can't go that route. I can't understand it. I think charity begins at home, and we must always remember that. And your own is your own. It doesn't make sense that we are collecting royalties from all the radio stations and taking all that money and selling it abroad, because that money is going to show up somebody who is singing a song or doing something from on the outside, and why our people are here and you're not giving them that play. So coming back to your question, right? We have really seen where, now, okay, Pan Trinbago have just decided, with the vision of the now sitting president, we have decided that some presidents would have gone, and some people would have gone to Europe with the pan, like I just mentioned. We went to the pan in the early time, 1951, 50s and that kind of stuff. We invited adjudicators, as we talk about the impact. 1952 also saw, while we talk about Tasco going out to the Festival of Britain, but 1952 also saw us getting involved with the Steel Band Music Festival, right, which would have been the biennial music festival in Trinidad here. This is where people with voice, people with clarinet, people who can play the piano, people can play whatever music, you know, they have this biennial. Every 2 years they have this competition where people will bring their musical talent to bear, whether it's with voice, choral work, or otherwise. What has happened is that the steel band decided to go in there and register. So from 1952, when Boys Town would have won the first festival, and coming down the road every 2 years, they would have had steel bands taking part until we reached into the 58s, somewhere around 58, as we head into 1960, when they found that there were too many steel bands actually to perform in when they have clarinet and all these other musical forms and other genre of music to go. So then they asked the organization to, hey, look at setting up your own story.
Okay.
See if you all can now have your own steel band music festival.
Right.
And we started our music festival, a steel band music festival, but then we're talking about the whole question of the impact. So I'm still answering your question. So we went abroad and we look at the Havelock Nelsons and other guys of the world,
Adjudicators.
and
Okay.
we brought them in, all right, to listen to the music and to talk to us from a critical point, right? So they were able to come with their musical acumen, right? And remember now we're talking about music, you still, and all that while they were still calling us pan men or panes or pan what have you, right? But we were bringing musicians or musicologists, right? People who would have studied the classics and studied all the music and the various grades, and so we were bringing them to adjudicate our music festivals. And they were actually making a critical input into how we treated the thing. The first time when John Russell or Russell Tong or some one of these guys had come and they had heard the pan, they didn't talk too favorably of the pan because the tonal quality was not where it should have been. But a few years later, when that same adjudicator came back, he apologized for what he would have said before.
So
And
that
he
has
said,
been some evolution in the manufacture of the
yes,
instrument
yes. So
and improvement,
the tonal, the
upgrade.
whole question of the tonal quality, and this is why we usually, and this is why we have given the kind of credit that we took time to give to the man Bertie Marshall, who decided, because he was blowing his harmonica, and he decided that he wanted to get the pan's, the tonal quality of the song as refined as what he was hearing on his harmonica. Right, and he stuck.
When you blow the harmonica, you hear harmonics.
Yes, and he was hearing, and even to explain that to some of the tuners took quite a number of years, right? Now you hear it tell you about the third partial and this partial and that kind of stuff in the music, all right? But before, it was like pulling teeth to get him to understand what he was trying to achieve, right? But with time, it has been achieved. The instrument is more refined, and like I said then, because of having some of these musical professors and so coming from abroad, and because of the fact that the bands were dabbling into the classics, the music of the masters, we were able to now take a symphony piece, be it the 1812 overture, all right, be it Zampa overture, be it what have you, the fifth of Beethoven, or what have you, take these pieces and actually play them in a much refined way. So again, we're saying that because of that, we were now able to put the instrument in a situation where the sax, which would have taken 300 years and so to be acknowledged as a musical instrument, we're seeing then before even 100 years that we are getting there with the pan. And thanks to the fact that we would have been treating with people who would have been into music from the foreign land, and those people who would have learned the thing, from academia.
Okay, well that's so there has been some impact, and probably you can say that
And
it's both ways too, and it
yes,
continues.
and
It works both ways.
So I was going to where we at now. So we did London, or we did Europe. Let's say Europe. We did Europe, and then another set from the National Steel Orchestra, right? So while we had TASPO going out to Europe, then we had the National Steel Orchestra. They went out to the US, different parts of the US, and they performed, right, together with even some of our tuners who by that time would have gone to the United States, brothers like Ellie Mannett and Clifford Alexis and some of these guys.
We had a very strong impact at the Expo 67 in Montreal,
as you know,
and then the Tripoli came up, and with Liberace went on a world tour of Europe.
But we also had the government of Trinidad and Tobago suddenly combined defense
Yeah.
steel orchestra.
Some of those guys
right?
remain behind. They're
Yeah.
known as playboys. They're
Yeah.
still part of the fixture
Okay.
of steel pan in Montreal.
So what has happened is that, so we talk about that part, the European continent, the American continent or North American side, right? So where we are now is that we have now decided to go into the fatherland, right, which is Africa, right? And we're talking about, we have been treating with Nigeria, which is one of the most populous country, sorry, not island, sorry, country in Africa, right? They having over 163 million people, right? And a steel band is supposed to leave this week, hopefully, right? That is the NGC, Hoover Joylanders, they're supposed to leave to go to Ghana, right? We are talking to Uganda, we're talking to Sierra Leone. So we are looking at taking the pan back to roots, which is back to Africa then. Why are we doing this then? Is because we're now seeing a gravitation to the instrument from the African continent.
Good.
Right? We have, as we speak, right, Pan Trinidad now has before it, right, 2 orders. And from the Nigerian side, we have a 725-piece orchestra for the Army and an 825-piece for the Navy as in Nigeria. Right? Last year, some discussions started with the Minister of Education. Right? They have 1,000 primary schools. Right? So
In Nigeria?
in Nigeria, 1,000 primary schools.
Don't forget my textbook, right?
Well, I talking to you. So you don't say don't forget your textbook.
It's
You
recorded.
have a textbook. You know you have a textbook. And you know the use of your textbook. And you know that you came to the Trinidad and Tobago government. And if it has been accepted here, what I'm saying to you now is that based on what's happening, right? Last year, it so happened that you're talking to a guy who left here to go to Nigeria to spend 5 days at most. That was the song specialist. We left to spend 5 days in Nigeria last year.
I remember.
We played at the presidential villa. Right? This is after the carnival would have been completed. The president had his grand show where they invited all the countries who actually came to take part in the carnival to do a performance at the villa. And some specialists represented Trinidad and Tobago. There's no history that we actually opened the performance. There's no history that we went live on BBC. And the few days that I told you that we were going to spend turned out to be 38 days.
That's great.
Right? And financially, it might not have been as successful financially, but for Trinidad and Tobago, we know what we did. Right? We made a sacrifice. I called my players together and I told them about the fact that when you take into consideration, if you leave here in the month of November to go to Nigeria, you'd be paying anything $16,000-$17,000 to return ticket.
Okay.
And if you have to spend that money, right, a small country as Trinidad and Tobago, to spend that kind of money on one person, add 18 people together and multiply that and see that they're coming up with $300 and something thousand that you're going to spend, which is more than $250,000. And just to send some people out there for 5 days or 4 days, we could have done it because the year before, Desperados went out and they spent just the same time and they came back home. Right? But my conviction over time is that if you are there already, you may as well try to see if you can get some more people, you understand, to hear the thing
Right.
and see if they will get to love it like we did. Right? So what we did, we went on the road. When we came out of the performance at the presidential villa, when we reached back to the Sheraton Hotel that night, we had so many visitors. And people would just come in And when they came to me, I tell them, oh no, not me. Go and speak to that gentleman across there. He's in charge of the band. And I was talking about the High Commissioner, our High Commissioner, Trinidad and Tobago High Commissioner, the Nigeria. I said, speak with him because I am here. We are supposed to leave here on the 1st to head back to Trinidad. If you telling me that you want us to stay here, go talk with him because you have to satisfy him of the conditions that everything is going to be all right and that kind of stuff.
Good.
There were some people who came and they made promises that they have not kept to this date, but at the end of the day, we still were able to do what we had set out. So we actually traveled by land from Abuja to Calabar. By travel, coach, up from one state to the next. We spend 3 days in this state. We move on 3 days or 4 days in the next state, 5 days until we reach to Calabar. Yeah? Yeah. So we did that. But what is happening now? The Chrome Company, and the Chrome Company does not chrome instrument. It's a company that is involved in oil and gas in Nigeria.
Okay.
Right? They heard of some of the problems that we encounter. As a matter of fact, what I have just told you, all that song specialist would have done, right? I am also to tell you that the Trinidad and Tobago government has not yet paid for the airline tickets, right? And they have not yet paid for the freighting of the instrument. Although, the day after we performed at the presidential villa, the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism from Trinidad and Tobago was visiting and was in Nigeria. And when we told him that our performance the day before the presidential villa went live on BBC, although we showed him and tell him that Trinidad and Tobago government could not pay for that kind of advertisement. Almost a year later, and I am telling you that Pan Trinbago had to pay Lapacan for the freighting of the instruments, and Shanti's travel service is yet to receive a cent for tickets issued to the band. So, you follow? So you see that even at home, we still have our problems. But now, hear what would have come out of that. The Chrome Company, a company that is involved in oil and gas, right? The guy out there, he heard the pan and he has been so smitten by the pan. He had a dinner for a song specialist while we were there. And at the reception thing, he was asking in what ways that he can help. And we were saying to him that we have a problem in Trinidad with having to face our government every time a band has to leave to ask them to do the funding and that kind of stuff. And the Chrome Company, through their managing director, owner, CEO, whatever you may call him, Sir Omika Ofor, right? He decided that Chrome Company would make a contribution. And Chrome Company has sent to Trinidad 25 million nairas. I know, hear what you're talking about a place that has a lot of suffering, a lot of poverty and what have you. So Mika Ofor could have kept his 25 million and spent it on quite a lot of Nigerians. Right? 25 million tantamount, or when you change it into TT, comes down to 1,020,000 TT. And that has been sent, and that is going to take care of the phase 2, who will be going to the Abuja Carnival this year. Now here what's happening. So, Patrick, we're going to have to go and ask no Ministry of the Arts and Multiculturalism for no help for phase 2 to go to Nigeria. The other place that we went, Port Harcourt, right? Port Harcourt wants a steel band for their carnival because we had also played in their carnival.
Okay.
And we are offering them the RBC Redemption Songsetters. Right? And Calabar, the last state that we have gone to, right? They are saying that they were so happy with the band because we were supposed to come back. They asked us to stay over for the senior carnival, and so right? Because we have played in the Junior Kiddies Carnival, and when they heard the band, they say, hey, they took our tickets, although we had confirmed it because we were flying back from Calabar back to Abuja and to do a little shopping that day and then head out. Well, we had the day for shopping, we had to forget that day for shopping. They took our tickets and they changed those tickets and they asked us to stay back. So we stayed, right? And they are making overtures. They are saying that they would like the band to come.
That's good.
Right? So I'm just saying, out of all that I would have said, right, where to date, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is yet to respond positively to the fact, right, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is expecting to leave here in the month of October to go to Nigeria. And all geared towards the whole question of what's happening now, helping them with the oil. You know that we are helping, right? We have some students who are being trained at the hotel and tourism place in Tobago from Nigeria. We have some who we are training here into the whole question of drilling, you know, because of the experience that we would have had, and knowing that Trinidad and Tobago is the first country to export. A lot of people, there's a little dot in the world, people don't know that we have come up with a lot of firsts, you know, apart from having a fish lake that is a wonder of the world and kind of stuff, you know. But like I said, then, because of the oil and the derivative of the oil, we still every day concentrating on what is the price of oil, and we're not telling ourselves that the drum that we have taken and make a musical instrument is very much more than even the price of a barrel of oil today. When you check Ohio prices for tenner pan,
exactly,
which is $6,000 for one, right? So where is the government in all of this?
Right.
No, and no, still yet, pan people and all. Anytime anything happens, you hear them saying, well, what Pan Trinbago doing? But this is not about Pan Trinbago now. This is about country. This is about what are we doing if we're talking about diversification? If we're talking about diversifying the economy, what are we doing as a people to realize something outside oil and gas?
Exactly.
Are we waiting until we go down in the earth and the earth stoops and say, hello, why are you coming down here? We have given you all something to make money. Go make money with it.
Right, exactly. So you're hitting the nail on the head there, because as a matter of fact, one of the papers I'm writing too, it's it might seem a bit controversial here in Trinidad, but I think it's very important.
Don't care, hello.
And
we have been plagued with controversies for a number of years, from since time immemorial. So the thing about it is that whatever has to jolt us, whatever has to give us a shock, whatever we have to do to shock ourselves into reality, I think we ought to bring it to.
Well, it's fine for me.
Salah,
I think.
let me tell you one time, Salah, over time you may feel. Let me tell you something. You are doing something that you have been destined to do. Now, don't ever try to forgive yourself. Don't try to forgive yourself and say that I may do something. Whether Forteau and them like it or Forteau and them ain't like it, that is our business. At the end of the day, whatever you do, you understand? I came out there. I have seen what you would have done. I could attest and I could tell people, here is a man who take his family, put them in a vehicle and travel for miles and miles and miles and miles to come and preach the gospel of Pan. So you don't ever tell yourself